Jong-un has ordered North Korea's military to intensify drills in preparation for a real war.
North Korean threats.
North Korea's main nuclear complex.
North Korea.
And North Korea.
North Korea.
North Korea has.
North Korea.
North Korea.
The world has been following closely the rise and fall of tensions between the North and South on the Korean Peninsula as a geopolitical flashpoint for several years. The international community is attempting to come up with a solution that will prevent a devastating conflict as a result of the North's nuclear aspirations in recent years. Here comes the U.S. military, which has been engaging in extensive military drills in the area in such an effort to discourage North Korea from developing a nuclear weapon. The Massive Invasion Task Force, which simulates an amphibious attack on North Korean coastlines, is among the most intriguing of these operations. But is this exercise a necessary provocation or a justifiable deterrent? And what role does Exercise Twin Dragons play in this larger strategy? Since the end of World War II, when it gained control of the southern half of the country and the Soviet Union ruled the northern half, the United States had been involved in the Korean Peninsula. The Republic of Korea, South Korea, and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or North Korea, each with their own government and ideology, were formed as a result of this division. The Korean Peninsula was split in half by a heavily guarded border after a 3-year war that began when North Korea attacked the South in 1950. Tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers are currently stationed in South Korea at any given moment as a result of the U.S.'s continued military presence there, both to dissuade North Korean aggression and to help the South Korean government in the event of an attack. This presence had served two purposes. The U.S. has often conducted military drills in the area over the years to maintain readiness and show its commitment to defending South Korea. Periodic hostile outbursts and sporadic diplomatic efforts have characterized U.S. ties with North Korea. The 1994 Agreed Framework, which North Korea promised to halt its nuclear development in exchange for aid and the prospect of improved ties with the U.S., was one of the most significant of these agreements. The agreement did, however, ultimately fail in 2002, and North Korea started up its nuclear program again. Since then, the U.S. has followed a strategy of maximum pressure on North Korea, employing a mix of economic sanctions and military showmanship in an effort to persuade the country to give up its nuclear development. Unfortunately, this strategy hasn't entirely worked, as relations between the two nations have continued to be strong. The U.S.'s extensive military drills in the area, which North Korea has blasted as provocative and destabilizing, have been one of the most obvious signs of this tension. The U.S. military conducts a military practice in South Korea called the Massive Invasion Task Force. It's a component of a bigger plan to dissuade North Korea from advancing its nuclear program and is intended to simulate an amphibious attack on North Korean coastlines. Ships, helicopters, and ground forces are only some of the equipment and people used in this exercise. The objective is to gauge how prepared U.S. and South Korean forces are to counter a future North Korean invasion and show how strong their alliance is. While the Massive Invasion Task Force is primarily a defensive exercise, North Korea has criticized it as an act of aggression. The regime has exploited the exercise as a cover for its own military maneuvers, including missile testing and other provocations, as it views it as a direct threat to its sovereignty. The Massive Invasion Task Force has drawn criticism for being overly provocative and raising the possibility of conflict. They believe that these drills are ineffective in preventing North Korea from developing nuclear weapons, and they may even just encourage it. On the other hand, proponents of the exercise contend that it's a crucial component of the U.S. military's initiatives to preserve preparedness and defend its partners in the area. They claim that in order to stop North Korea from taking advantage of any perceived weakness on the part of the U.S. or its allies, a strong military posture is required. The Massive Invasion Task Force, as a whole, is a contentious exercise that draws attention to the ongoing hostilities between the U.S. and North Korea. Its usefulness as a deterrent is debatable, but one can't dismiss its influence on the region's greater geographical position. Another military practice that the U.S. military conducts in South Korea is called Exercise Twin Dragons. The U.S. and South Korean militaries are participating in a combined exercise with the goal of enhancing communication and cooperation between them. The exercise simulates a range of potential combat scenarios on the Korean Peninsula and includes a variety of scenarios, including offensive and defensive operations, with a focus on joint command and control and application of cutting-edge military technology, it consists of both ground and air components. Exercise Twin Dragons has been characterized by North Korea as provocative and disruptive, similar to the Massive Invasion Task Force. The regime has demanded the cancellation of the exercises and has exploited them as a cover for its own military exercises. The US-South Koreans' alliances and readiness and efficacy, according to the exercise's proponents, depend on it. They contend that the drill boosts the possibility of a peaceful settlement to any potential confrontation on the peninsula by enhancing coordination and interoperability between the two military forces. Yet, critics argue that such exercises are inherently provocative, and they may raise the likelihood of conflict. They contend that the emphasis on offensive activities conveys North Korea a message of aggressiveness, and it may be misunderstood by the leadership. Exercise Twin Dragons is a sophisticated military exercise that demonstrates both the potential and challenges of the US-South Korean partnership. While it has the potential to increase military readiness and cooperation, there are possible downsides too, gotta say. Thus, it needs to be properly handled to prevent the peninsula's tensions from rising. The emphasis on joint amphibious operations is another feature of the Exercise Twin Dragons and the Massive Invasion Task Force. These are military operations that are carried out from the sea using both naval and land forces. The Korean Peninsula, which has a long coastline and a number of key islands, is especially relevant for joint amphibious operations. These actions would be essential for safeguarding the shoreline and gaining a foothold in hostile territory in the event of a conflict. Joint amphibious scenarios such as beach landings, air assaults, and naval gunfire support are all part of the exercises. They are intended to enhance the American and South Korean forces' cooperation and interoperability when they carry out these intricate missions. To make sure that the US and South Korean forces are ready to react to a potential invasion from North Korea, the Massive Invasion Task Force and Exercise Twin Dragons were created. The drills include a variety of scenarios, such as mock assaults on important military and civilian targets and coordinated amphibious operations to protect the coastline. The US and South Korean military must participate in these drills to maintain readiness and make sure that they are ready, They'll also call for the employment of cutting-edge military technology and apparatus, as well as a high level of coordination and preparation. Finding new ways for the US and South Korean troops to increase their preparedness and interoperability is one of the main goals of these exercises. This covers everything from creating more efficient communication networks to enhancing individual soldiers' equipment and training. The exercises also emphasize how crucial it is to keep funding military readiness and modernization. The US and South Korea must maintain a technological lead and be ready to counter any potential threats as North Korea continues to enhance its own military capabilities. The Massive Invasion Task Force and Exercise Twin Dragons have constantly been denounced by the North Korean government as provocative and aggressive actions. The dictatorship views these drills as clear indications of US and South Korean animosity towards the nation, and as direct challenges to its sovereignty. North Korea frequently conducts its own military exercises in reaction to the drill, including missile testing and other provocations. According to the dictatorship, these measures are required to defend itself against the US and its allies, who it perceives as acting hostilely. North Korea is criticized for its disproportionate and unnecessary aggressive response to these exercises. They contend that the regime is exploiting these exercises as justification for its own military development and as a means of drawing attention away from its own economic woes and human rights violations. On the other hand, proponents of the drills argue that they are crucial for upholding deterrence and averting conflict in the Korean Peninsula. They believe that in order for North Korea to stop acting aggressively against its neighbors, a robust military posture is required. The perception that Massive Invasion Task Force and Exercise Twin Dragons are provocative and raise the possibility of war on the Korean Peninsula is the main target of criticism. Opponents contend that the exercises are ineffective in dissuading North Korea, and they may even cause mistakes and unintended escalation. Critics' alternate suggestion is to place more emphasis on diplomatic engagement with North Korea rather than military drills. They believe that rather than military posturing, dialogue and confidence-inspiring measures are more likely to result in a peaceful resolution of the crisis. But proponents of the exercise believe that a robust military posture is required to stop North Korea from acting aggressively towards its neighbors. They say that military drills act as a deterrence and send an essential message about the US and South Korea's dedication to defending its regional allies. Other experts have suggested modifying the exercises to lessen their provocative character as a different option. This can entail a shift towards more defensive situations and a decrease in the quantity of personnel and equipment used. The difficulties in reducing tensions on the Korean Peninsula are complicated, and they can call for a diverse approach, regardless of the solutions put out. Among a larger toolkit of actions that might be taken to uphold stability and avert conflict in the region, military drills are just one option. Diplomacy and engagement with North Korea are ultimately the key to ending the crisis. Thus, efforts in this direction must continue. We really appreciate you joining us as we've explored the sinister side of technology. Please do click on that subscribe button if you happen to find this video subscribable or likable, that way you don't miss any of our upcoming material. We can't wait to go on more adventures with you.